Well, hello everyone, I'm Postmaster Radio and it's time to bring on the funny. You're listening to Ujokes Weekly, the official podcast highlighting Jonathan Mangum's virtual comedy show Ujokes, where comedians plus you guys and gals on YouTube, the Ujokes audience, you can compete for the best joke. It is literally comedy gold at your fingertips. Easy as that. Now this week as usual, this podcast is all about two different Ujokes shows because keep in mind, for the next little while, the Ujokes podcast will be releasing new episodes every other week. This is just a minor change I had to make at the beginning of the year, especially with regards to my new podcast schedule, but that change will be temporarily undone in due time. But that's not important right now. What is important is that we have two fantastically funny Ujokes shows to discuss. Details coming up, but first, if you missed the most recent Ujokes podcast, you gotta catch up now. You'll find a link to the most recent podcast in the description. As always, to continuing listeners, brand new ones too, thank you so much for checking out the Ujokes podcast. It really means a lot. If you're listening from YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe so you can stay notified on new Ujokes podcasts. I'm also very happy to let you know that I have added the Ujokes podcast to the wonderful platform Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening from Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a rating and review if it is not too much trouble. And as usual, don't forget to keep listening because after this week's Top 5 Countdown, we have the Ujokes Awards for additional highlights, plus an interesting batch of Ujokes extras. Gonna be a great podcast today, but first, a couple of quick things to note about the shows that we are talking about today. First, from last week, Noelcasler. And then because there was a last-minute cancellation for the other comedian that was set to join Noel, his new competition for that night was Amy Kahn. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it should. You may have seen her on a frequent basis, recently, of course, in the YouTube chat, but maybe back in the early Ujokes days Facebook, back when, it was functioning a bit better back then for the early Ujokes shows. But to get the idea, Amy Kahn, a frequent competitor in the Ujokes chat, and she had some really great jokes during her show, as you'll find out. So that's last week's show. We're going to discuss same deal with yesterday's Ujokes show, in case you missed it, with Lahnaturner and Andres Du Bouchet. I do have to warn you about one other quick thing. This usually does not happen with the Ujokes Top 5 countdowns, but not all of the comedians are going to make it onto the countdown. Is this how good Amy Kahn was? Or did you guys and gals, the Ujokes audience, manage to even bring her down a peg? Who's to say for sure? You're going to have to keep listening to find out. And with that being said, let's get started. No more chit-chat. Time for this week's Ujokes Top 5 Countdown. Spot number 5 is going to go to a game called Dreaminterpretation. Now, in this game, based on the picture shown, which in this case was a donkey on a boat, interpret that pig were it to actually show up in your dream. Now, in this case, I'm giving it to the audience for this particular spot on the countdown. Shout out to Bob Hoff from the YouTube chat. F, I left my donkey on the boat. Seriously, that's a good joke there, and that got team audience 1 point. Congratulations, Bob Hoff. Great joke you had. Now, that joke was from last week's Ujokes show, but now on to last night's show at spot number 4 on the countdown. This goes to probably one of the biggest fans of Ujokes, Shiana _ free your soul. And this goes to, well, technically it doesn't go to the What's It Mean game, but it's a callback to that game. And we'll talk more about that game later in the podcast. But you know how What's It Mean works, where a fake word is presented and you have to come up with a possible, albeit hilarious, definition of said word. In this case, the word was gerboint. G-U-R-B-O-I-N-T. Shiana had a callback to that word for a different game, the game that came after What's It Mean, actually, called captionthis. Now, for the picture of, I'm not even going to try to describe it that well. Keep in mind, Jonathan's producer, Josh, is in charge of the pigs. I don't know what the hell is happening there. I just see, one guy with another creepy old dude, yeah, I can't even go on. But shout out again to Shiana, because I was trying to come up with a good joke for this one. You never know when the callbacks come in handy. We gerbointed together and we're never the same. That is a damn funny joke. Well done, Shiana. You not only came to play, you came to slay. Next up at spot number 3 on the countdown. Oh, Amy Kahn, the spotlight is now on you. Kind of tough to, and I know this is not technically a real saying, although it should be, kind of tough to out-comedy Amy Kahn. This got her a win during her show from a game called Finish the Quote. Now, in this game, based on the quote, you know they're saying there's no I in teamwork? Well, in this case, you just have there's no I in, and then teamwork is just cut off because you don't want to fill it in with the actual saying, because that is boring. No. You got to fill it in a funny way using your unique sense of humor. Needless to say, Amy Kahn went above and beyond with this one.
There's no I in Cyclops. There should be one, but there isn't.
Oh my gosh. You're so right. That kind of blew my mind.
I mean, gotta give props to Amy Kahn for asking the tough questions. The really tough questions in life. But we're not done with Amy Kahn just yet. Oh, no, because at spot number 2 on the countdown, spotlight's still on you, Amy, for a game called Name the Movie, for the picture of, and I'm just gonna say this lightly, 4 man babies of royalty, but their carriage is the subway. Yeah. Yeah, it's better for you to just see these pics when you watch the Ujokes shows. That way, there's you can almost understand it, but not really. And the reason why Amy's performance on Name the Movie lands at spot number 2 on the countdown is because of one little thing, last show's best. Now, as you know, not everyone can compete on Ujokes Live. Some people watch after the fact, which reminds me, in the case of last night's Ujokes show, if you missed it and you had a really good joke, you can go to the Ujokes YouTube channel, go to that show from last night, type in your joke in the YouTube chat, and if your joke is picked by either Jonathan Mangum or his producer Josh, you may be invited to play on next week's show. And that's kind of how Amy Kahn was able to save, essentially, last week's Ujokes show because of that last-minute cancellation. But then the question is, Amy's filling in for one comedian, yet she's also last show's best.
So, do I have to play 2 since I'm also last show's best?
Ooh, you know what? This is a very yes and kind of show.
So basically, Amy ended up playing with 2 jokes, but considering that these were, I guess technically 2 jokes in one turn, albeit 2 separate jokes, but still, I'm very surprised Amy did not earn another win under her belt for this game.
It's either toddlers and MB tiaras after the Boston commuter rail, or it's the musical picture going for the redhead in the foreground there, Little Orphan Anarchy.
Orphan Anarchy. Aww. They're so cute and horrifying.
Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else about Amy's performance on Name the Movie. Well done, Amy. Gotta give you some props again. But the only thing that is better than basically 2 jokes in one turn is 4 jokes in one turn. At spot number 1 on the old Ujokes countdown, Andres Du Bouchet takes the crown in a game called Bumblebrag, where based on the picture you gotta figure out what might this person's dating profile say were the picture to be used. In this case, one of more of a merman than a mermaid. But anyway, great game for Andres Du Bouchet.
Do you hate giving blowjobs? Then I'm your man. You couldn't even if you wanted to. Let me be the surf to your turf. I enjoy sunsets and long flops on the beach. Plus, I'm a cheap date because my stomach is already full of plastic. And although I'm not Mormon, that was a typo.
And with that being said, that's that for the Ujokes Top 5 Countdown. What a complete upset in the end. I'm sure you thought Amy Kahn was going to take the crown, at least for the Ujokes Top 5 Countdown. But hey, you know what? These 2 are really talented, folks. You know, Andre with 4 jokes in one game, that's true. But in Amy's case, it's one thing to fill in for a last-minute cancellation. It's another to be promoted from, as Jonathan put it, typical member of the Ujokes audience, to actually graduate to the show and to basically kick butt against noelcasler. And speaking of which, sorry to any noelcasler fans and fans of lahnaturner as well. But yeah, neither of those 2 comedians made it to the Ujokes Top 5 this week. Amy and Andre, the competitors, plus you guys, the Ujokes audience, you dominated too. What a countdown, and what a great couple of shows we had. But we're not done putting the fun in funny just yet. It's now time for the Ujokes Awards. First up is Comedian of the Week. Now, this award is brought to you by the letter A, and not just for award, but for Amy and Andre. Both Amy Kahn and Andres Du Bouchet were my top 2 picks from the last couple of weeks. For Game of the Week, I'm going to give it to Bumblebrag because of Andres Du Bouchet's incredible 4 jokes in 1 routine. Next up is the Audience Award. This goes to the best joke from the Ujokes audience. This one is a no-brainer. Shout out once again to Shiana_Free Your Soul with her gerbointed joke from captionthis. Well done, Shiana. And as for Manga Moment, because of course I can't not have an award named after the astonishing and comedic Ujokes host himself, the wonderful Jonathanmangum, and I've decided to give it to a joke he had for the game What's It Mean? Yes, it is true, Jonathan doesn't get to play in the games, which, maybe could change for one episode in the future, who the heck knows, but he did have a pretty good joke all the same.
I think that a guide to guess gerboint is a word, it's a response you get when you tell a sensible alcoholic that booze is destroying their life. Yeah, that's a good boy.
Oh yeah, you the man, Mangum. So that is that for the Ujokes Awards, and now it's time for Ujokes Extras. These are 3 extra jokes that did not make it onto this week's top 5 countdown, and I gotta make a quick apology once again to fans of noelcasler and lahnaturner because they are not part of the Ujokes Extras either. Sorry Noel and sorry Lana if either of you happen to be listening to the podcast. Don't get me wrong, you guys definitely had a couple of funny jokes, but it's another thing when people like Andres Du Bouchet and Amy Kahn basically dominate the entire competition. Sorry you two. But now let's get to this week's Ujokes Extras. First up, going back to last week's show from a game called Nametheinvention. This was basically a picture of a bra but with lobster claws attached. Shout out to Cassie P for her joke, lobster bra, it's to protect you from getting crabs down below. The next Ujokes Extra goes to Amy Kahn once again, this time for a different game of Caption This, for the picture of a middle-aged woman with a gourd and a tiny cute little doggy.
Oh my gourd. No, Cindy sat patiently waiting for the clock to strike midnight when fairy godmother's magic would wear off and return her to her dreary, privileged life.
Wow. It told a story and had a joke. I like that very much.
Interesting take on Cinderella. Not too shabby. And for the last Ujokes Extra, I mentioned a few moments ago the What's It Mean game with the word gerboint. Well, I gotta give the last of the 3 Ujokes Extras for this week to Andres Du Bouchet for his joke in regards to that word.
Gerboint is when you sneeze in the middle of saying Gesundheit to somebody.
Nice one, Andre. So that's that for this week's Ujokes podcast. What a great Ujokes show we had last night and the week before that. I hope you enjoyed both of those shows. And for more like that, you know what to do. Go to the Ujokes YouTube channel now, although the next Ujokes show is coming up on Monday, March 15th at the usual time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. Keep in mind that because of the temporary change in my Ujokes podcast schedule, the next official Ujokes podcast will not be released until Tuesday, March 23rd. Oh, and in addition to Jonathan's Ujokes show, this is something else you might be interested in. You know the classic game F, Marry, Kill? Well, the host of this show, Carolyn Page, takes it one step further in another comedy show called FMK Champions. If you want to watch that, you will also find it on the Ujokes YouTube channel. First episode is on that channel as of a few days ago. New official episodes will be every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. And you know what? With that being said, that's it for this week's Ujokes Weekly podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you had a great time. Make sure you stay connected with me on Twitter, Instagram, at Postmaster Radio, plus Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, you name it. The account links are all in the description. And for even more Ujokes fun, be sure to check out the official Ujokes website created by Ujokes fanatic Craig in the UK. The link to that website is also in the description. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, well, bye for now. See ya!